Hi, I'm Claire and this is the end of year book tag. Now I'm doing this quite late. Ariel Bissett, who is the original creator of this tag, put it out on her channel in like September, which I refuse to think of as the end of the year because I'm always behind on everything. So if September was the end of the year for me, it would give me hives. So I'm doing this now. There are a few questions that I won't be able to answer as well because it's so late in the year, but there you go. That's when it starts feeling like properly the end of the year and wanting to wrap everything up for me. Mid-November. Question 1 is, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? And absolutely, there always are. I have quite the habit of picking up a book, starting it, really enjoying it, and then putting it down to go do something else because my brain found a shiny thing to look at, and then forgetting to pick it up again. Not because it's not good, but because there are so many good and interesting things around that I get super distracted and don't pick it up again. So I've got 2 books in particular that I very much did that with this year and that I definitely want to finish reading. The first is a memory called Empire by R.K.D. Martin. This is a sci-fi novel about a newly appointed ambassador who shows up on the planet where she is due to be the ambassador, to discover that her predecessor died under mysterious circumstances, maybe got murdered. And this is especially interesting to me because it's about different cultures and how they interact with each other. I wasn't really far in before I put it down, but I was really enjoying it, so I want to get back to it. And I would specifically recommend the audio for this book because there are some like funky alien names going on in there that I think work really well on audio. I bought myself a copy at EasterCon because I have no willpower and it looked pretty, but it is in fact available on SCRIBD and I would definitely recommend the audiobook because, like I said, I was very much enjoying it. If you are interested in audiobooks and SCRIBD, by the way, do check out my sign up link in the description box below. It's not a sponsorship, but it is a link where you can sign up and get some free reading time, and I get some free reading time too if you sign up through that, so please consider it. The second thing that I started and then paused and really want to finish this year is The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Waite, and this is a female historical romance novel about a young woman who is an astronomer and is just trying to do some science and some research, except of course the world around her is not ready for women to do that. And the story is all about her meeting this wealthy widow whose late husband was a very famous explorer, and so she has all these contacts in the scientific world and she can help basically bring light to the science that this young woman is doing, and also they smooch. So I definitely want to finish reading that because it sounded like it was about to get extremely lovely, and I need to finish reading the book. Question 2 is, do you have an autumnal book to transition you into the end of the year? And I do not, mostly because it's kind of almost already winter here in the UK. It's really cold, it's really dark. I don't know if you can tell by how bleak the lighting is in this video. It's daytime right now. I'm recording at 2 p.m. I have a window right here. It should be way brighter than this and it is just a bit grim. So absolutely, as we get to December, I am going to want to read books that have more winter and holiday vibes, but I don't actually know what books to pick for that. So if you have any recommendations for like winter themed books, please do let me know about them in the comments below, because when I read this question I realized I don't actually have plans for December mood reading yet, and I think that would be lovely to have. Question 3 is there a new release you're still waiting for? And as December tends to be fairly quiet in publishing, there actually isn't. I know of a couple of books coming out in December, but they are all sequels to things that I haven't read, so they're not on my most anticipated list. There are a couple things that came out in November that I desperately want to read, but that I want to listen to on audio, and the audio rights don't seem to have sold in the UK yet because they're not available for me on SCRIBD or on Audible yet. hopefully they will be soon. But the two things that I have in mind for that are The Witches Are Coming and The Deep. The Witches Are Coming is a non-fiction book by Lindy West, and she read the audiobook for her previous non-fiction book Shrill, which I've just listened to earlier this month. Really, really loved. I cannot wait for her new book, but it doesn't seem to be available in the UK. And then The Deep is a novella by Rivers Solomon and Clipping. It's based on the song The Deep by the band Clipping, and it's a sci-fi novella about the descendants of the pregnant enslaved women who were thrown overboard of ships during the transatlantic slave trade, which is a thing that happened. And the song and the novella kind of posit that these people survived and morphed into an underwater people, and that they are still around, and it's about the memory of that trauma and like who has to deal with that. Just sounds so powerful. I really, really want to read it, and I really want to listen to it as an audiobook, because the audiobook is being read by David Diggs of the band Clipping, so someone who was involved with this, you know, from the very beginning, creating this song, somebody who I'm a fan of because of his work on Hamilton. So yeah, I might end up having to read the story in print, but I would much prefer to be able to listen to it on audio if I can. I moved quite far from the original question here, but whatever. Next up we have, what are 3 books that you want to read before the end of the year? And shockingly, I wasn't able to pick just 3, so I have 4. First, there is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is set in Jazz Age Mexico, and it's about a young woman who is working as a house servant and accidentally frees the spirit of the Mayan god of death, who then enlists her help to regain his throne. And that sounds fascinating as a premise, but also I love Silvia Moreno Garcia's writing style and her world building especially. I think this is going to be really, really lush, and I can't wait to dive into it properly. Next up we have The True Queen by Zen Cho, which is a sequel to her first novel, Sorcerer to the Crown, which I absolutely loved. This is set in the same world as Sorcerer to the Crown. We follow 2 sisters who mysteriously wash up on the shore of an island under the burden of a terrible, terrible curse, where one of them might be disappearing from existence, and they have to seek the help of the Sorcerer Royal. And I'm definitely here for that. I want to see a lot more stories about sisters in SFF, and I cannot wait to see the characters from Sorcerer to the Crown again, because I loved them. The Raven Tower by Anne Leckie is another big SFF release from earlier this year that I did not have time to get to, and that I really, really want to get to because Anne Leckie's writing. I'm so excited to get more of Anne Leckie's writing. It's a reason in itself, but also it's her first fantasy novel, and I've heard that there's some sections in the second person. It just sounds bonkers, but in a great way. So I want to try this one out because I kind of trust Anne Leckie to do whatever, to be honest. She's one of those writers where I've had my mind blown enough in wonderful ways by her that I just want to read whatever she writes next. Next up we've got The Future of Another Timeline by Annalee Newitz. This is a relatively recent release that's all about time travel and politics, and those two things are very dear to me, so I'm really excited to read this. It's about a future in which time travel is a thing, and there is a terrorist group that's hoping to use time travel to basically go back through history and roll back women's rights. And obviously we follow the people that are trying to make that not happen. So all those 4 sound amazing to me. I really want to read them before the end of the year. Also A Memory Called Empire, the book that I mentioned earlier, I would like to finish that before the end of the year, or you know, kind of early next year, because those are all 2019 big SFF releases, and I'd like to read them in time to be able to consider them for my nomination ballot for the Hugo Awards. Next up we've got, is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? If any of the books that I've just mentioned wanting to read before the end of the year became my favorite book of the year, I don't think that would be shocking in the slightest. I think that's very possible. I have no idea at this point what my favorite book of the year is gonna be. I tend to pick books to read that I think I'm gonna love, so I would be a lot more surprised, I think, if any of the books that I've just talked about, I read them and really didn't care for them. I hope that doesn't happen because I always want to be enjoying books, but I think that would be what would shock me the most. And the final question is, have you already started making reading plans for 2020? And the answer to that is kind of yes and no. I'm not making any kind of quantitative reading goals for 2020 before I see how well I've done or not done on my 2019 reading goals. So for instance, my Goodreads reading challenge, I've just passed my goal for this year, which was 52 books. So I want to see how many books I get to before the end of the year and then base my goal for 2020 on that. But I'm definitely thinking about what I'm gonna be reading in 2020, how I'm gonna be reading in 2020, that kind of thing. I'm thinking about the types of videos that I want to make, about whether I want to try giving myself TBRs again. I thought that I had to do TBRs when I just started my YouTube channel, and then it felt very liberating when I told myself I didn't have to do that, but I feel like I've gotten to a point now where it would feel fun to do them again, so I want to try that out. I'm considering doing monthly wrap-ups again, or doing wrap-ups like every 3 or 5 or 10 books or whatever, just to have a place where I talk about everything, and then if I want to go more in depth on specific things, then I can do that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. I also recently treated myself with a subscription to a book box, so when that comes around, there might be an unboxing or two. I really love watching those, so I kind of wanted to try my hand at doing some of them. And also I'd love to get more books in that I didn't necessarily like know about super long in advance, that aren't necessarily my most anticipated, just so I can get an opportunity to be a bit surprised by a book and to read something that I love that I didn't necessarily expect to. So that's it. This was the end of year tag and my plans for the rest of 2019, such as it is. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you've got things that you want to read before the end of the year, or, you know, specifically wintry recommendations. I would love to hear what you think. If you'd like to see more from me, you can check out a previous video on screen right now. And if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button that's on my face for a new video from me every week. I've been Claire. Thanks so much for watching, and see you soon.